topics and opinions expressed in the following show are solely those of the hosts and their guests and not those of W4CY Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4CY Radio or its employees or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4CY Radio.
Hi, and welcome to Learning to Dance in the Rain. I'm Shelby Wagner, your host, and this is a show where we talk about life issues and provide insights and guidance and meaningful conversation, hopefully to help you get meet your storms and get through them and learn to develop resilience. That's our theme. We want to be able to face our problems and move on, face any kind of storms that come on. Today, I also should say that I like to bring you interesting information from different people that I find very interesting, and I think maybe you will too. And today, I'm very excited to interview as a guest my friend, Dean Piper, who is the Pipeman. And I'm going to read a little bit about him and then we'll have him come on. He's an international radio personality and podcaster, marketer, publicist, promoter, published author, speaker, coach, and trainer. And I saw website designer and a few other things I've learned about him. He's founder of Talk 4 Media and this Pipe Productions. And the Talk 4 Media is the one that takes care of all my engineering needs here on this podcast and all of my needs on the social media and advertising. And so I'm really, really enjoying knowing this young man. Would you please welcome Dean Piper, the Pipeman? Hi.
Hello. How are you?
Hey, I'm great. We're snowing here in Michigan today. We got a couple inches of snow.
I'm in Florida and it's not snowing here.
Oh, thank goodness, huh? It's a very big disappointment when you go to Florida to see some sunshine and they're having bad weather too.
Yeah, I was in North Carolina, just at the end of the month for Thanksgiving, and I came back to Florida. It was in the low 40s, and I'm like, oh my God, I left North Carolina, come back to Florida to warm up, not deal with this, but now it's better. It only lasts for like a second when it's that cold here.
So how was it in North Carolina? I'm going to go down there for Christmas.
Well, where my kids are located, it was in when I first got there, it was 40s and 50s. When I was leaving, it was 20s and 30s. And the unfortunate part about where they live is it gets cold, but it never snows. It like very hardly snows. My viewpoint is if it's going to be cold, let it snow. Yeah,
that's good. We had a really beautiful fall up here in Michigan. We were like, in the 60s and it hit low 70s right up until the end of November. So all of a sudden it dropped down to 35, down to 26, I think, during the daytime even. And boy, I don't know. I guess as I get older, that cold air just doesn't feel very good to me.
No, I'm telling you that's why I'm wearing the hat too, is because like I'm growing the winter hair and the winter beard, to keep a little warmer. And so, my hair's a little in the disheveled stage. So we put the hat on it to make sure I don't scare anybody, but yeah. But I was up there in North Carolina wearing beanies, so I didn't need to go get my hair cut. It was too cold. But you're right. as I get older, like I used to love the cold. Now I hate it. Like usually I'm one of the dummies that does the opposite of a snowbird. I'm in Florida when everybody else is leaving, and I go to winter places during the winter. And this year I was like, yeah, I don't want to do that anymore. Like every year the cold becomes less and less inviting. The last time I was in Jersey, which is my home, last two times I was like, oh, I can never live here again. It was gray, freezing rain, and just nasty. That's the part that's worse. Not the cold, but the gray. The
The what?
gray. The gray.
Oh, the
Gray
gray.
skies.
Mhm.
Just it's miserable. But you know what? It's great for doing shows like this. That's what it's great for. Because
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 they're
I'm
inside.
out having fun in nature in the sunlight because there is none. So it is true. Okay, listen, you take these northern states like Michigan, like New Jersey, like New York, and people work their butt off during the winter months just so they can relax during the summer months because they have nothing better to do, like hibernate and work. That's what you do. I think that's why people are more productive in those areas, because if you take the warm weather areas like Florida, like California, I find people's work ethic to be a lot less. I find their motivation to be a lot less. It's like the heat and the sun just drains them of all that, and all they want to do is sit around in the air conditioning.
I think that must be true. I lived with my daughter and son-in-law for 6 months after my husband died. We had relocated to Tennessee, and so she invited me to come back and stay with him for a while. And he liked it. And this was July, August. Well, it was August, September. It was still warm. But inside the house, they had the air conditioner down to 72, or what was it, down to 68, I think. And I was freezing. I
Oh
said,
yeah, I was
yeah,
just at my friend's house in California, and they had the air conditioning on 65. I woke up in the morning. I'm like, I need to wear my winter jacket in this house.
right, right. Finally, I convinced my daughter, and she went and talked to her husband, and she says, I like to wear shorts in the summer. And it's too cold inside. I can't wear them. So he turned it up a little bit, but that's fun. That's funny. Anyway, I'd like to know how you got started with her. What motivated you? Which came first, the podcast or the talk for media?
Well, I think my mother and father came first, and that's where it all started. Okay.
Really?
Well, because if it weren't for them, we wouldn't be here
Oh,
talking right now, But seriously, okay, so basically, I used to be very big in the financial business. I'm also a motivational speaker, coach, and trainer. So I was always on the other side of the fence. I would pay to do radio shows to get leads for my business, and to inform people and just everything like that. And, you know, it was 2007, and we had the beginning of what was then called internet radio, which is now called streaming. They don't call it. It's funny how things didn't industries progress and they changed the name to create some like buzzwords like podcasting. It's so funny. We were doing podcasting before it was even a word. And now that it's a word, everybody thinks it's like the new buzz thing. It's the greatest thing since crushed ice. And all podcast really is a recording. We've been doing it since the beginning of time. It's not something new. It's not some new technology. The way we do it is new technology, but a podcast is simply a recording. That's all it is. And it gives everybody a voice. But what I saw back in 2007 is not what we're seeing today. There was no such word as streaming. There was no such word as podcasting. Terrestrial radio, AM, FM was the thing. And nobody ever thought internet radio was going to go anywhere except me. I kind of I always said it's like Bill Gates. Bill Gates worked for IBM. He went to IBM with an idea of a concept of a PC in every home. And IBM looked at him and said, "You're nuts. The mainframe will never go away." And that's when he left IBM and started Microsoft. And kind of same thing happened with me. I, was paying to do these radio shows, and the first internet station I was on, it was this dude was doing it at his house. And while I'm doing the radio show, his dog is running around me and cats climbing on the studio table as I'm trying to do the show. And I mean, I'm allergic to cats too. So it's like, but I'm like, I can't bring guests here. Like, this is before we were doing remote, when you're doing it in person. I can't bring guests here. It's ridiculous. And you know, yeah, that's why nobody's taking this seriously, is what I was thinking of myself. But I did see the vision of where media was going. I knew that what we were doing was archaic. One of the things I knew is that you just look at the equipment at radio stations that's still there at AM, FM stations. It's the same equipment they've been using since like the 60s. Okay. And that's so outdated now. And, you either have to evolve with change or die with it. And IBM chose to die with it. And that's why IBM suffered forever. But, they really got hit hard for 25 years. And they're still not the company, the monster that they were back in the 70s. Okay. And no different here. Okay. I was looking at this. I'm like, I believe this will be the thing. And I used to tell people, you're going to hear radio in your cars and you're going to listen on your phones and this and that. And people thought I was nuts, because we had flip phones then. We didn't have smartphones yet, so, but nobody had this imagination of what you and I are doing right this second. But I did. And so, very similar to what happened with Bill Gates, I had a contract with the radio station I was at. And besides, I'm a very loyal type of person and fair person. So I went to the owner of that station. And I said, "Listen, I've been doing some research and I think I can take your station to a whole nother level." And of course, he did what so many people do, especially males in any business, that he let his ego get in the way. And he was like, I couldn't believe how stupid he was too, because about what I'm about to tell you next. But he basically said, "I've been here before you, I'll be here after you," and blah, 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 and then proceeds to rip up my contract in front of him. Like, what an idiot, to be blunt, because he just put me into business. I wasn't going to be able to go into business till the contract was over. I would have to continue paying him till the contract was over. He did not benefit himself in any way, shape, or form. He just let his ego get in the way, ripped up my contract, and the very next day is when Talk 4 Media was started. The very next day, because before that, I was already doing the research and the planning. I already hired the people, because here's what my viewpoint was that I was trying to tell this person. If you want it to be a legitimate business, you have to run it like a real radio station. You don't, just because you can do it out of your home doesn't mean you should. Just because you can buy some cheap equipment doesn't mean you should. Just because you can do it yourself doesn't mean you should. And my whole point to that is there's professionals for a reason. You can't watch a YouTube video and then expect somebody to want you to get a scalpel and do brain surgery on them. But that's what it's like saying. It's like, oh, you don't need to go to medical school. You don't need to get licensed. Just watch a YouTube video and you can do it. And that's what they're doing in this, and they were doing in this industry. And frankly, the sound quality was horrible. Video was horrible then. Okay. All this stuff was horrible, and people were still doing it on their own and thinking they're going to be a legitimate business. But that's not the case. So my idea was, I got professional studios just like terrestrial stations. I got state-of-the-art equipment and spent thousands of dollars, not dollars. You can't buy a $50 mic and expect to run a radio station. I hired professional engineers. That's what they did. Just like a brain surgeon does brain surgery, just like a teacher has qualifications like yourself and is a teacher, not somebody wakes up in the morning and decides to go to a school and teach, which I hear nowadays. That's what's happening because teachers don't want to teach anymore. So they're just hiring anybody to teach our kids. That's
wow.
scary.
Wow.
That
Wow.
is scary. Okay. The whole DIY thing in every industry is scary, in my opinion. Yes, you should be able to do some things yourself, but leave some things to professionals. I mean, really, what do they say about lawyers? A lawyer that represents themselves has a fool for a client. It's just true in every industry, and this one's no different. So
Mm.
basically, and then we did all kinds of events because what terrestrial stations do, they do events. So we did everything that a terrestrial station would do. On top of that, what did we do? We did it legally. Okay. We went and got licensed. We're still licensed to this day. We pay royalties all the time. We do reporting. This is required by law. Yet even now, there's thousands of podcasters breaking the law because they want to do it themselves and they don't know the law. And that's going to be, that's not fair to artists. You got a radio station, you're playing their music, they deserve to get paid. I've talked to some people that are new in this industry and they're like, well, they should just be happy I'm playing their music. No, they shouldn't. They're not working. You want to work for free? They don't want to work for free either, type of thing. And so basically, I tested this radio station for 3 months before even broadcasting live to make sure the sound was perfect. It was exactly the professionalism that was needed that wasn't existent in internet radio at that time. And that is the beginning of where we are today, that now we have several radio stations, a podcasting network, a TV streaming network, and a marketing firm, as well as a partnership with iHeartRadio, Pandora, Spotify, Amazon Music, Audible, and we have associations with over 100 other podcast outlets. We are partnered with music festivals all over the world. We're partnered with broadcasting and podcast conferences throughout the world. Why? Because we treated it like a real business, not a hobby. Those out there that are still sitting in their bedroom doing it with a $50 mic, it's a hobby. You're not a podcaster. You're a hobbyist having fun. And that's why the average podcast only lasts 3 months max. On average, it's more like 3 episodes. Is that unbelievable that the
Oh,
average
wow.
podcast only lasts 3 episodes? Why? Because they don't know what they're doing. They need to come to a place like Talk4 Media that will do all the work for you, do it professionally, take a lot of the work off your plate so that you could focus on doing what you do best, spreading a positive message throughout the world and helping people. And I'm sure you would agree, Shelby, that if it weren't for Talk4 Media, you wouldn't be able to accomplish what you're accomplishing with your radio show and podcast.
Oh, I wouldn't have even started.
Right?
I needed you. I needed you.
There it is.
That was one of my questions here. What would a listener today have to do if they wanted to start a podcast with us? How would they get in touch with you
Oh,
or
well,
me?
I'm
Or
glad you put it that way because that was going to be my answer. The first thing is they need to reach out to me, and they can reach out to me multiple ways. They can either go to our websites and fill out a form, and I will get it. They can also direct message me on any social media platform I'm on, and I'm on most of them. My social media is Pipeman Radio. You can see it in my name right up there. And well, it's actually right up there. I never
it's
get
underneath you.
where I'm
Yeah, it's
supposed
right
to
there.
point. I'm sitting on it. I'm sitting on it. See, that came out perfect. So in my
Oh, yeah.
logo, I'm sitting on it in yoga position. Okay, so Pipeman Radio, PIPEMANRADIO on any social media. You could also email me at dean@talk4media.com. That's TALK, the number 4, MEDIA.com. Or if you just want to pick up the phone and give me a call or text me, that's actually the best way because you'll get me right away. and it's 561-506-4031. And you will actually talk to a human being. That's something we pride ourselves to. We use new technology, but old school philosophy. Customer service, what a concept. Human experience, what a concept. So thank you for that. That's how you would reach out to me. And then we could discuss your needs. And it's not, listen, we're not cookie cutter. We customize everything to suit your needs, your desires, and what works for you. So just reach out to me. We'll have a discussion. If you like what you hear, you'll do it. If you don't, yeah, we'll be friends, connections, networking buddies, and move on.
Right. I think I saw yesterday, I was looking at my website, learningtodanceintherain.com, and there was a request, and I wondered what is that for? And I clicked on it, and there was a form there. Was that something they could do also?
Oh yeah, absolutely. So I also have, like I said, we have all our websites, my podcast, the adventures of pipeman.com. You could do it on my website. You could do it on your website. Anybody has a request for you, Shelby, wants to be a guest, wants to be a sponsor, any of that, anything, they could do it on your website.
And does that go to you?
If you get requests, it'll go to me and I forward it to you.
Oh, okay.
So that way,
well, you take care of everything for me, so
that's right. And you don't have to manage anything. You don't have to understand anything. I make it very simple for you. Like, listen, we've had people, and Rebel, who's engineering the show right now, can testify. We've had people that don't even know how to turn on their computer, do a show. So,
oh, really?
You don't really need to know anything. You just have to be you. That's the best advice I ever give to any guest, host, podcast, or whatever. Just be you. It's not like the old days. The infomercials don't work anymore. People want real, they want conversations. Just be you. Like, you want to know how much preparation I did for this appearance on your show?
Oh, I bet you worked a couple, 3 hours.
Yeah, it was more like 10 seconds.
Really?
It was plugging my mic in, turning the mic on, and even when you sent me like potential questions, I looked at them, I'm like, oh, those are all great, and I didn't even prepare answers. I just read the questions, and it's like, okay, that's what people want.
Once I got into figuring this out last night, and I thought, boy, I think I need to have you on here a couple times, because I don't know if we're going to get all my questions answered in one setting.
No, I don't even think we got to 2 of the 20.
We haven't got to it yet. Well, the first one was a little bit got us started, but yeah, it was a year ago that you called me, and we got talking, and I think after you told me all of that were going to do to help me, and I was kind of skeptical. But do you remember? You probably don't remember what I said, but I said, it looks to me like you do all the work and I have all the fun.
Yeah, exactly. That's why I don't even engineer my own show. Okay, like, I'm the owner, and I'm like, here, I'm gonna pay you to engineer my show because I don't want to do that crap. Okay,
Yeah.
and I want to be in a zone to focus. The reason I can have this conversation with you is because I don't have to focus on any sound problems, video problems, technology. I just have to focus on the conversation with you. That's it.
Well, you must focus on my show, and you do or you probably don't even have anything to do with that either, really.
What, you're the show right now? No, I do the behind the scenes, but to be on your show, yeah, Rebel's doing all the work. I'm just sitting here, I'm just sitting here having a good time while Rebel's the one working to the bone right now, like, not me.
And it isn't long, maybe one time, I think it was 15 minutes after the show finished, I saw a note that said it was already up on YouTube.
Yeah.
Or it was already on my website. I thought, that Dean is really working hard and fast.
That's right. That's right. And that's what we do for you, because listen, how many DIY podcasters, like, they don't put up their episodes till like 2 months later because they just don't have time,
Right.
And that's why you need to go with a professional, because that podcast is no longer really relevant 2 months later. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So we pride ourselves on getting the stuff done immediately and making sure that we have the power to do so, so that you as the show host benefit, you know, like you said, it's pretty amazing that 15 minutes after the show, you were already seeing it on your website.
Mm-hmm.
That's what we do for you.
Yeah, that's really. Can I put a little bit of a plug in? Yeah, I think it was yesterday. I checked on Amazon Audible and Originals to see if my book was up there yet. I have an audio book on learning to dance in the rain, and that book did not come up, even though I hired them on November 7th. That's a month ago, to put my audiobook up, and it wasn't up there. But you know what? All of my episodes were up there on Audible. I couldn't believe it. I thought, wow. I was really impressed with that too. I've been impressed with you, and I've been impressed with Rebel this whole year. I just really have enjoyed doing it, and I'm
Well,
hoping
we
that.
love hearing that from you. I really love hearing that from you, because I'm not impressed with Rebel. So if you are, she must be good. Um,
Oh, come on! I think
Nah,
I,
Rebel's been with me 12 years, too long. And no, seriously, Rebel is unbelievable, and you know that she is the reason that people could have a good podcast opposed to just a podcast.
Mhm. Well, uh, I'm very impressed with both of you. So let's see. How did you get to from Dean Piper to the Pipeman?
Well, there's the question right there. So that's
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 the
a good
question.
story too. That okay.
Okay.
So and it is actually an old nickname of mine that resurfaced. So when I was originally doing all my radio shows, and even when I started this network and doing my shows, all my shows were very business oriented, very serious, motivational, financial, things like that. Okay. And so I had multiple different types of shows. I had my motivational show, my financial show, I had a relationship show, I actually had a game show. I had all these different types of shows I was doing. But on the relationship show, I developed this show where basically I had three co-hosts that I recruited specifically because of what they and who they were. Myself, being on the radio is playing a role, but I never really played a role before. That wasn't what I did. I was just myself. So on this relationship show, I was myself. And myself is what women have told me throughout my lifetime, including my daughters and including my ex-wives. And even to this day, the ex-wives still say it, but I have the too nice syndrome. Okay. I've been told many times too nice. I'm the typical guy that the women don't want because I'm actually the nice guy, and I'm not the one beating the crap out of them. I'm not the one bossing them around. I'm not the one controlling them, all these things. And like, people are hearing me say this, and I'm saying it because it is kind of true for both sides, men and women. We pick the people we shouldn't be with, and we ignore the ones we should be with. And so basically, I played myself, and that was the nice, hopeless romantic. And then I recruited two women. One of them was a very conservative married woman who was a businesswoman. And the other woman was married too, but she was a hot Latina that was the epitome of the woman player. And then I picked another guy. He was the opposite of me, the epitome of the guy player, or what I always used to say, why do women always pick these jerks? I don't get it. And he was 40 years old, never had a relationship longer than a year, doesn't go on a second date unless he had sex on the first date. So a total player. At one point, he had to leave the show. He was going on some adventure in Peru. And so I decided instead of replacing him, that I would just play both roles. And that is where Pipeman was born,
Oh,
because it was very interesting too. It it really changed my whole show, because I got a little taste of the other side, but not in real life. So that was like I never could be the other side in real life. But when you're the nice guy, your whole life you're scratching your head like, I just don't get it. Why do they pick these jerk offs? Why do they think being too nice is a bad thing? Why do they think being a romantic is a bad thing?
mhm.
Man, I got to walk in the jerk's shoes. And oh my God, it was enlightening. It was enlightening, 100%. And I'm actually going to bring Rebel on in a minute so she can testify about something. And I'll give her her cue. This is her cue that I'm going to give her a cue. Okay. But basically, you know, it became like a social experiment. I got to see how the other half lived. Okay. And I was like, I get it now. And so Pipe Man is kind of an alter ego radio moniker personality now that on my show, I'm multiple, like I have multiple personalities. So that's what comes out of my show. We all have multiple personality facets of our personality. I call it multiple personality disorder for me, but everybody else, it's normal. Okay. And that is, I, my show is professional, business, shock jock, comedy, music. It's a whole variety. I've been compared to Howard Stern, but I've also been told if Howard Stern and Tony Robbins had a baby, that's Pipe Man. Okay.
Oh.
And and so basically it became a thing on the radio, but then it overflows into real life and again shows how, oh my God, I don't understand these people type of thing. So I'm going to tell two very telling stories that you're going to love. Okay. One is going to
Okay.
involve Rebel. And this is where she's involved. So one time I was covering the show here at the South Florida Fair. It was a band Puddle of Mud. And my daughter worked for the station at the time. And so she was there, and Rebel came down. Rebel runs our Louisiana studio. She came down to Florida to help cover the show too. Okay. And after the show's over, we walk outside and we're all out there. And this is the story I was told, so she can correct if I'm wrong. Rebel turned to my daughter and like, what's up with all the women? Because there were a whole bunch of women surrounding me. And Jessica did one of these. Oh yeah, all the women love my dad. Rebel, is that
This
story
is
accurate?
this is so true. I didn't understand it myself until I watched and I learned. And it was like, oh my word.
Yep. But they loved Pipe Man. Now, here's the sad part about it. Okay. And here's where a problem lies. And it's apropos for your show and what you talk about right now and why people get scammed in dating and stuff like that. Because I will meet women as Pipe Man because I go out and do events. And if there's somebody I like and I would want to get with, then I go and hang out with them as Dean. They don't want Dean. They want Pipe Man. It is
Really?
the most ridiculous thing ever. So much so, are going to lead to the other story and one short story right now. I just recently I met somebody on an online dating site. She wanted to talk on the phone. We get on the phone and she says, "Oh, I thought you'd have more of a radio voice." I'm like, "What do you mean?" "Well, do your radio voice for me." I'm like, It's not a radio voice. That's my actual voice. No, seriously. Can you do your radio voice for me? And, needless to say, we were unmatched. I unmatched her. But here's the best story, okay? You're going to love this. So, thing one, that's how I refer to my ex-wives on my radio show. It's thing one and thing two, okay? And if you ever met thing one, she would tell you, if she knew you were related to the radio station, oh, you probably know me as thing one. And so when we got divorced, she says to me, I really hope you find what you're looking for, because you're like the most romantic person I ever met in my life. I'm just not into that. And that was one of my first wake-up calls in life, because all my life I thought I should be this nice guy, romantic, friend zone dude, and didn't realize it wasn't working well for me. And so, and that doesn't mean I'm not that way as Dean. And still, I am, but it still doesn't work out so well. Whereas things work out very well for Pipeman, I can tell you right now. But okay, so my ex calls my daughter one day at the studio, and she goes, I was listening to your dad's radio show. And now at this point, we were divorced for like 12 years. And she got, no, it wasn't 12 years. I mean, I don't remember what it was, but we were married for 12 years. And she goes, what happened to him? He's so obnoxious now. He was never that obnoxious in all the 12 years we were married. He's such a player now. So, then she tried to reconcile with me. Why? Because she thought I was a player now. And so now I was her type. Married for 12 years, but now I was her type because I was Pipeman. And so that story, I make fun of it and I laugh, but it's kind of hurtful actually, because it's like, oh my God, what is wrong with people? It wouldn't matter, man or woman. It goes both ways. Listen, I pick the worst picks too. Okay. I have a sign in my bedroom that two of my daughters bought for me. It said, my next wife won't be crazy. Okay. If that tells you anything. My response to them was, I wouldn't really bet on that. Okay. But it's true. It's like, we need to change how we view our relationships, really, because that is what opens the door for all the scammers and the bad people and stuff like that make relationships so very difficult. So I'm going to say right here and now, for the first time ever, screw Pipeman, man. You people out there, stop with your wanting pipe. I have a commercial. We won't play it on your show. That's on my show, because I have this made up Groupon I made where it's like a bed and breakfast, and they can buy the Groupon at half price as special during my show. And they get to come to the Pipe Cave. That's where I live, and service the Pipe Man all night long, and then service the Pipe Man breakfast, and then leave. And I literally have women call into my radio show to buy this fake Groupon. It just blows my mind. The stuff I do on my show is just to blow my mind more and more every day. And Rebel's a co-host on the show, so she can also verify everything that I'm saying right now. In fact, she's the voiceover for the Groupon commercial.
Hey now, shh.
Is that a generational thing? I don't think that would be true with the women my age.
I think it's not a generational thing. Think about women your age. Think about women your age that, they were in abusive relationships, patriarchal relationships, dominating relationships. And when they weren't allowed to really leave is the difference. They weren't allowed to express themselves. But when they finally did leave, if they did, you see a whole different person. They become themselves. That's why so many women, they say, I've lost my identity. because they do lose their identity unless they're with the nice guy. If you're going to be with the jerk off, you're going to lose your identity. It's just that simple. It's a pretty simple formula, I think, personally.
Yeah, I've been surprised by a couple, well, maybe 3 or 4 guys that I have met on the dating site, and they told me, "Oh yeah, I just get all these women when they just want sex, or they just want one night stands." And I really, hey,
Do you
um,
know that your age group is the highest percentage level of STDs?
oh yeah, I know, and most of it is in Florida down there in that cities,
Well,
northern.
there you go.
Yeah, I've been there for
Century, century, Century Village. Century
century. Oh, there's
Village is
another
like a
one.
petri. Yeah, it's down near me. This place, Century
Uh,
Village, where they all
uh,
live. It's like a
uh,
petri dish of STDs.
oh
You
boy,
have to know
wow.
it. When you get off the airplane, there's big billboards about STDs everywhere you go.
Yeah,
Really? Oh my,
yeah.
wow.
Where Rebel is in Louisiana, they don't have that. You know why?
Why?
Because they don't care.
That is not true. We become safer than you people in Florida. Anytime that you have to post billboards so people can know where they have to go is an issue. Everywhere
Well,
you
I
look,
think
there's
the other way.
billboards.
I think the other way, if you're in a state where they have no billboards and nobody knows where to go and they're just spreading diseases everywhere, because, like, screw it. I can't get tested. I don't know where to get tested. Listen, people are embarrassed to get tested. So I'm all for the big signs because then they look at, oh, okay, maybe I can get tested. It's not so embarrassing. I'm
Maybe we
somebody.
teach our people differently than you guys. Maybe we teach to be careful and safe and all of that stuff. I'm not saying that it's the cleanest place in the world to live, but come on now.
There's a reason that every movie, every TV show that has every evil thing there is always based in New Orleans. Okay, just saying. And see, this is stuff we do on my show, Shelby. Like, because
Uh,
I'm a Yankee, she's a Southerner, and we play off of that.
I listened to an episode of yours last evening. Uh, this would you rather be the serial dater or a serial killer, or what's the
And I,
scariest is
and
how
I,
you were putting it, and my eye caught it when I saw that name because near about several years I was on the dating site for about 6 years on and off, and till a couple years ago when I finally met Rick, and now I'm not. But just near the end, I dated this one guy about 3, 4 times, and then I really didn't, I didn't feel like I wanted to go any further. So I turned him down and said, no, I don't think we're a match. Well, he called me a serial dater. He read my book.
wow.
He read my book, and then, well, you're just a serial dater. And at first that hurt my feelings. I thought, well, I thought I was getting to know guys to know which one I really like, which
Right.
one, I mean, I was
You
playing the
should.
field, is what we called it back in the 50s and
Yeah.
60s,
And
playing
listen,
the
you
field. And he
should.
called me a serial dater. So that I hurt, and I think that's why he said it. It was to hurt me.
Of
But
course he did.
later on, I was taking a class in public, national public. I've forgotten now what the name of it was, to get media interviews. And you had to have what was it, a hook. So I thought, I asked my coach. I said, "Well, this guy called me a serial dater." And she said, "Well, I think you ought to use that in your hook." So I went from a grieving widow to a serial dater.
There you go. That's a good hook right there. But think
Yeah.
about it. Think about it. Okay. I always think about this. I talk about, so when we're young, we kind of ignore all the red flags. We ignore all the things that don't match with us, and everything else.
Well,
And
even when
Eric,
we're older and we're wanting those things so badly because
right.
we're
Well,
lonely.
when you get to a certain stage in life, you're done playing around and being with. Listen, I do the same thing. I'm 58 years old, and listen, I don't have any time to waste by staying with somebody that's not exactly who I want. So, yes, you will eliminate people immediately at these stages of life. Whereas when you're younger, you stay too long. Like I stayed in my first marriage 9 years longer than I should have. Okay. I will never do that again because it's just dumb. And I don't have 9 years. I might not have 9 years to do that. You never know, you know, like, so I would rather, date a whole bunch of people to find the right one instead of, so many people are afraid to be alone. So many people feel they have to be in a relationship. I have a brother that's that person. And I told him years ago, and I still say it to him today, you're never going to find the person you're looking for when you're with somebody else. Because that's what people do. The serial daters aren't the
That's
bad people. The bad people are the ones that stay in relationships and they're always looking for what's better before they leave that relationship. And that's not fair to anybody. Okay.
right,
You
right.
know,
That's
I'm a
true.
firm believer, just stay by yourself and miserable till somebody is the right person. I'm kidding about the miserable, but some people think it is miserable to be lonely or be by themselves. But you know what? It's a lot more miserable to be with the wrong person.
That was a sentence that I picked up along the way, and I typed it up and put it on my refrigerator. It's better to be single than to be in a bad relationship.
Mm-hmm.
And
100%.
when I would feel, lonely or upset it was taking me so long, well, maybe God wants me to be single, the rest of my life. I'd see that and then I'd say, okay. But one thing I wanted to say is my son is 10, he's 48. And he says the women in that age group that he's in are just different. And it's hard to find one that you're compatible with, and want to be with over a length of time.
Well,
And I
I'm
just
going to
wonder,
say something.
pardon?
I'm going to say something. I'm going to tell you right now in that realm, women around the world are misunderstanding why men in their 40s and 50s like younger women. It's not what they think. It's because of what you're saying right now. Because here's what I find with the women in their 40s and 50s, and predominantly in their 40s, is number one, they're so scorned that you can never win. I can't tell you how many I met that are, I'm never getting married again. I'm never living with a guy again. I'm blah, 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 blah. So nobody wants that negativity or that not opportunity. Whereas younger women are like, they haven't gotten scorned yet. So they're into settling down. They're into being in a relationship. The women in my stage and your son's stage, they're more about their independence and being in a relationship. Like I can't tell you how many women I've met that the guideline to be in a relationship with them is that they have their total independence and we get together maybe on the weekends. That's the relationship because I can't be with a guy 20 every day. Okay? And then there's the fact that they're so negative about things sometimes, even themselves. A lot of women in their 40s and 50s think and act like they're in their 80s. It's weird to me. Like I was doing a perfect example. I was doing a charity event for the station, and it was an ice skating event. So I brought
Yeah.
my skates, and she goes, "You're not going to go ice skating, are you?" I'm like, yeah, it's an ice skating charity event. That's the point. And you have your own skates. What are you, a child? Who said that you have to be a child to have fun in life? Who said
Oh,
that you have to be a child to enjoy certain things? And that's the attitude that we get as men. So we want to go for the younger woman that doesn't think like that. And we even had, if you go way back in the archives, we have a radio show where it was the dating game. Remember the dating game from the 70s?
Mhm.
Well, the Bachelor in there, and there were 3 females, and I was blindfolded. And the reason why this happened like many years ago, I was in my 40s. And
Uh-huh.
this friend of mine who was 28, she was like, "Let's do this dating show so that you'll stop picking hot young psycho women." And I was blindfolded, and there were 3 women, 2 in my age group. Well, one a little older than me, one my age group, and one that was in her 20s.
Mhm.
And I ended up picking the one in her 20s without seeing what she looked like or knowing anything, just based on her answers, because she was so positive and optimistic and so not scorned at all that the other 2 were such a turnoff. There was one question I asked, and all they talked about was cheating, which I knew that I'm never going to live through that, because I'm not a cheater, but they're going to think you're a cheater because they're so focused on it. So yeah,
That's the
Yeah.
same age as you, the middle ones.
the 40s and the 50s, 40s and 50s. Yep.
Well,
So
and
there
I
you go.
more
We
about
only have
that,
a
but
minute left. See, you
I
only
know
got through
I have
like
to go.
2 questions. We're gonna have to do shows for the next 2 years to cover all
I
those
told
questions.
you. Yeah, we'll have to come back. You'll have to come back next month.
Right? There you go.
Thank you to the audience for being here today, and I hope you enjoyed it as much as I have. Um,
Well,
and
thank you for having me too, because
thank
you
you.
rock. I love this show, and I am so honored to be a guest on it.
I just saw that something that you said was another way of saying learning to dance in the rain. Anyway, I'm going to say goodbye to my audience, and I'll see you next week.